Today's episode features a woman whose ballroom journey is nothing short of inspiring, powerful, and deeply moving. I'm talking with a Houston based competitor who started ballroom dancing in January of 2024 at the age of 70, but you won't believe it because she doesn't even look close to 60. Hey, it's your pal, the Dancing Housewife, and welcome back to another episode of the Dancing Housewife podcast, where we cover everything you ever wanted to know about ballroom dance, but were afraid to ask. Joining me is Denise Holmes. Denise is a dancer with fire, determination, and a sense of joy that radiates in every lesson, every practice, and every moment she spends on the dance floor. Denise will share how she fell in love with ballroom dance and the shocking medical journey that led her to her recent diagnosis of stage 4 cerebral amyloid angiopathy, a progressive and currently untreatable neurological disease. Despite over 15 documented brain bleeds and persistent dizziness, Denise credits ballroom dance as the reason she can still function, drive, think clearly, and live a full, connected, joyful life. This is a story of resilience, neuroplasticity, hope, and the kind of transformation only ballroom dancing can bring. Let's start with the basics. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what life looked like before ballroom dancing.
Antoinette, good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm excited to share my story with you and your listeners. I was born in Bay City, Texas, a small agricultural community, and my parents were Depression and World War II era parents, and so they didn't have for me as a girl a lot of expectations that I would go to college. They kind of expected that I would just grow up and get married and have babies. And I had a different life path that I decided that I wanted to take. So I, against their wishes, I attended Texas A&M and got a degree in animal science. Then decided that I needed a different career path, so I got my accounting degree and found my business niche in regulatory compliance auditing for the last 40 years. I was one of those typical
Wow.
workaholics and worked 60 hours a week, and thought that was what life was all about. Ballroom dancing has
Yeah.
opened up a whole new life for me.
That's a great segue to my next question. You began ballroom dancing in January of 2024. So we're coming up on celebrating 2 years.
Right.
You were 70 years old.
Oh,
What led to that moment?
okay. Actually, I was 69 when I started. I turned 70 in October. And so
Okay. I don't want to add a year on you.
I had always, as a child, wanted to learn dancing. And at 5 years old, for my birthday, I told my parents that I would like to take dance lessons or get a horse. And we were pretty poor. And my parents said, well, you're going to have to choose one or the other. We just can't afford both. And I chose the horse. And at the time, it was a good decision because she helped me put myself through college. But never quit wanting to learn to dance. But I had no related experience
Uh-huh.
or anything. And my husband answered my Christmas wish in 2023 by giving us introductory dance lessons at the Fred Astaire studio in Cypress, Texas.
Okay. So you originally started learning to dance with your husband. Was it more of a initially social?
Absolutely. The initial was to just be able to dance together, mostly two-step because we're in Texas after all. But I have always loved waltz, even country waltz. So that was the introduction. But it was very quick that I realized that I wanted to learn a lot more than just some social dances with my husband. And then after the first mini
Yeah.
that I attended, it was like, oh, wow, I love this.
Yeah.
I think I want
Yeah.
to compete.
Yeah. So what surprised you the most about learning how to ballroom dance as an adult?
Well, I was pretty athletic growing up, competed a lot in group sports, and I was a good runner. and I love to snow ski. So I thought, why not do this ballroom dance thing? It can't be that hard. So it was shocking for
Yeah.
me. It was how difficult it was to learn ballroom dance, or
Yeah.
is, not was, it is difficult to learn.
Yeah. I wanna fast forward a little bit to your first competition, I think, was in June of 2025. Is that right?
It was 2024, just 5 months after I started.
Oh,
Yeah, June of
after.
2024,
Okay. Okay.
and I will tell you I did awful. Uh,
Really?
yeah, my instructors would make me put $1 in the negativity jar. Actually, they'd probably make me put $50 in the negativity jar for that statement, but I was not pleased with how I performed, and so that is when I decided to redouble my efforts and also to increase the number of lessons I was taking. Before that, I was only taking
Yeah.
a couple of lessons a week, and I decided if I'm gonna
Right,
do this,
right.
I'm gonna do it right, and so, but it was also the Lone Star Dance Challenge in 2024 really did confirm my suspicions about that something was going on with my brain.
Yeah. Okay. Can you walk us through that? Because, I mean, you said ballroom dance saved your life. I want you
Did
to walk us
Yeah,
through that
okay.
and your diagnosis, everything.
Okay. So when I started dance, I already had a little nagging suspicion that maybe I was having some issues that were more than just age related. But I started dance.
Okay.
All of my instructors assured me that, they could teach me to dance, that I wasn't having any issues, that they could notice that were anything beyond age related. But I did have some serious issues with spins and turns, and I was dizzy all the time. And I don't think they realized when I said that I was dizzy all the time that I meant 24/7, that I was dizzy
All the time.
all
Yeah.
the time. And I still am and probably always will be. But then, as I said, after that June competition in 2024, I redoubled my efforts and we really focused on and continue to focus on balance and control and just strengthening my body overall. But still, they were convinced that everything that I was experiencing was similar to anyone else that they were teaching at my age level. So then, November 2025, at the Holiday Star Ball, it was during the
Right.
nightclub competition that I think it was probably the disco balls, the flashing lights, the swirling lights on the floor
Oh, right.
really
Yeah.
discombobulated me. And then it was during a dance that I realized I'm really nauseated and the room is spinning. Literally, the room was spinning and tilting, and I thought, I can't stand up." And that was just a matter of less than 2 or 3 seconds when my instructor realized, "Okay, this we gotta get her off the floor." And so I was escorted off the floor and, immediately threw up in a trash can over by the door, which was very
Ooh,
embarrassing for me because
gosh.
and so then they helped me outside because I thought perhaps I just needed a little fresh air, but there were enough people. One of the students at our studio, Rocky Patel, is an anesthesiologist. She came out, and then another doctor attending the competition, Lucy, I can't say her name correctly. Lucy, Dr. Lucy came out and they evaluated me. My
Okay.
heart rate was normal, my blood pressure was normal, my breathing was consistent, and so they didn't think that there was any medical emergency for me to go to the hospital because I didn't want to do that. That was just too much drama and chaos. And so the
Right.
part owner and manager of Cypress Studio, Elena Gutierrez, took me back up to my room. And I was hoping that, things would settle down and that I'd be fine the next morning. I could not get out of bed the next morning without holding on to something because I was still so dizzy. So I let Elena know that I was not going to be able to participate in the rhythm competition, that I had to go home, that something was not right. I knew I couldn't drive. My husband had not attended with me. And so he actually came and got me. When I went down the elevator, as I stepped off, I was holding on to both sides of the elevator because I was so woozy and dizzy. But as I stepped off the elevator, I just collapsed to the floor. I mean, I just, I couldn't stand up. And my husband, I think maybe the hotel people thought that I was drunk or something because it was pretty early in the morning. But my husband helped me up and
Oh, wow.
I just couldn't gather myself. He literally had to pick me up. And anybody that knows me knows, you know, let me do it myself. Don't, you can give me your hand or something, but you don't have to pick me up. He literally had to help get me up on my feet and help me to the car.
Wow.
And I think as soon as I got in the car, I started crying. I was so upset. And he said, I'm going to take you to the ER. And I said, no, no, I want to go home. I will see my doctors Monday. I said, I was evaluated last night. But let's just go home and let me rest. So I rested for the rest of the weekend. And a lot of the symptoms subsided, but I was still having, in addition to the persistent dizziness, episodes where the room would appear to spin and tilt. And so I asked Rocky Patel, the anesthesiologist that had attended the competition, I said, I think maybe I need to see an ENT before I see anybody else. And I said, is there somebody you recommend? So she actually recommended an ENT
Right.
doctor who diagnosed me with vertigo. And so that was actually an easy
Right.
fix, which I still have episodes of vertigo, but I've learned the Epley maneuver that makes it go away. So
Right.
that was
Yeah.
the start of my diagnosis. She said the MRI that she had done indicated a much more serious issue and that I needed to go to a neurologist. After my diagnosis of the vertigo and all that, it was probably I believe March when I was actually able to get in to see the new neurologist, and she was she was shocked that I was speaking clearly, that I was walking without assistance, that I was still taking dance lessons because she said the MRI, she said, I expected to see someone in a wheelchair, in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And so she
Wow.
said, I am just shocked. She said, I I'm happy for you, but this is really amazing. She said, I think you may be a medical anomaly. So
So is that when you got the diagnosis of stage 4 cerebral
yeah,
amyloid angiopathy?
it was, yes, that's correct. And so it was April, actually, not March. I think I said March, but it was April. And she then said, after reviewing everything, um, you have stage 4 cerebral amyloid angiopathy. And she said, it is currently incurable, untreatable, and progressive.
What was going through your mind when you heard that?
Well, I certainly didn't know what cerebral amyloid angiopathy is, and it's definitely a mouthful. So saying CAA is much easier, but I was just shocked. I thought, stage 4, stage 4 anything is not good,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
I was literally overwhelmed. I'm so glad my husband was with me because we only hear a percentage of and absorb a percentage of what we're told, and in a situation like that, you definitely need another set of ears.
Right.
But my first question was, "What the heck is it?" And so she said, "It's a buildup of a specific protein in your brain. And that protein builds up plaques that weaken your vascular system and lead to the little brain bleeds." She said, "A lot of people just have their first thing as a major hemorrhagic stroke." She said, "In your case, you had a series over a period of time of asymptomatic microbleeds." She said, "However, you did have a couple that were more major, and I'm amazed that you didn't have to go to the doctor or go to the ER." She said, "Because most people with anything more than a microbleed, they're aware, they know something's going on." In retrospect, I know that there were some episodes where I was probably having a brain bleed, but thought that it was related to vascular migraines, because some of the symptoms are very similar, or somehow lupus related because I have systemic lupus. And so any symptoms that I did experience that I'd had before or recognized, that just didn't trigger anything. And plus, it's interesting that at the Holiday Star Ball that I didn't have elevated blood pressure or heart rate or breathing issues. And so at the appointment, she said, "You're somewhat of a medical anomaly." And I said, "Well, I do like being a little unique."
Right.
but but I have learned a lot about cerebral amyloid angiopathy since then, and will continue to do research because
Yeah.
hearing the news that you have an incurable,
Yeah.
untreatable, and progressive disease is pretty horrifying. I and any
Yeah.
there are some drugs available that can help some people slow the progression. In my case, because I have lupus, I can't take those drugs. So it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I haven't given up hope.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. I know you. you your mindset is amazing. Your attitude, your mindset is amazing. I want to ask you a question. If I remember correctly from like the research we did together, you've had over 15 brain bleeds at this
that
point, right? With damage to your occipital and
that
parietal
is correct.
lobes, parts of the brain that are
Yes.
critical to decision making, cognitive
Yeah.
function. What are neurologists saying about how dance is
that
impacting you?
that it saved my life. That if not for dance, I
Yeah.
would probably not be walking, that I would be in a wheelchair. That the damage, while is very widespread within those two lobes. So I have visual spatial awareness issues. I have tactile. I there's things that I can't feel a lot of times. And so the dancing has helped because of the neuroplasticity of the brain, which allows your brain
Right.
to
Right.
reorganize and rewire. Ballroom dancing is the single most effective activity that someone can do to rewire their brain. And there's lots of evidence that supports that.
Yeah.
But I believe I am living proof that the brain can and does
Yeah.
rewire to bypass damage and allow people to continue to function.
Neuroplasticity is just it's a phenomenon almost, the way the brain can literally build new
Right.
highways, new neural pathways. It's
Exactly. It
amazing.
is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research about how dance helps people with all sorts of neurological
Exactly.
disorders. How has dance helped you to reconnect and express your feelings? Because you talked about the expressive part of
Yeah.
dance. Tell me
You
about
know,
that
I
part.
think I've had some moments in dance where I was just so moved because I was feeling things that I hadn't been allowed to feel. And it was just amazing. And so my emotional development, I feel much more adult now as a result of ballroom dancing,
Yeah.
because I am beginning to
It only took you 69 years.
exactly.
Speaking of emotions, you talked about a moment with your instructor when he said, frustration is a choice.
Oh,
What kind of shift did that make
you
in you?
know, I it was so surprising when he said it. It just kind of shocked me, and I had to kind of stop and just think, wow, he's right. It really, he was so matter of fact about it. And I thought, he's so right. And so I consciously now think about not being frustrated, that I instead I'll laugh it off,
Yeah.
shake it off. I'm not always successful because I started learning this pretty late in life, but I still try and it works.
Better.
I'm getting a lot less
Yeah. Yeah.
frustrated. I'm actually starting to give myself a little grace when I get frustrated as opposed to getting mad at myself and really negative self-talk is so bad for you. And I'm learning not to do that.
Right. Right. What do you think the biggest lesson dance has taught you is?
It's not about perfection. It is totally about improvement. There is no such thing as perfection in dance. I'm learning there really probably nowhere in your life is there anything that is real perfection. So it's been definitely been a
Yeah.
learning experience for me, and like I said, I'm starting to give myself more grace and being more positive in my
Yeah.
self
Yeah.
talk as opposed to just being harsh with myself.
Now, you alluded to the fact that you started so late in life, but for somebody listening, thinking about starting ballroom dancing and they're a bit older, maybe someone who's scared or self conscious, what's your best
Just
advice?
do it. It is, you have no idea. You have no idea what it might bring. And what have you got to lose? Especially the introductory lessons
Right.
are inexpensive. And in my case, I do believe that if not for ballroom dance, my life would be a lot different. And I support anybody
Yeah.
that has a family member who is elderly and having some issues to consider the possibility of ballroom dancing because it really does help.
This has been a wonderful conversation. Your journey is inspiring. But before we wrap things up, is there something you'd like to leave my listeners with?
I hope they understand that this it was not easy for me to do this podcast because even though a lot of the students and my instructors know, it's not something that I willingly share with a lot of people because number one, I don't want them to feel sorry for me. Um, and also, I'm doing so well that I I believe that I do have the ability in my body to heal myself. So I am looking at other options, holistic options. I use light therapy, I use sound therapy, I do meditation. I've done some even mystical, as my husband says, voodoo things to start healing myself. And I believe that all of those are working. But if not for ballroom dancing, I don't think any of those would have been possible for me.
I really appreciate you sharing your story. And I know it wasn't easy. And I know you're very private about it. But if two things can happen, if anyone is struggling and they need to find something to help them improve their health, improve their memory, ballroom dancing is it. And also,
Absolutely.
it's important to raise awareness about this disorder. It's flies under the radar. I'd never heard of it before meeting you. And, it's important to be aware of what's happening in our bodies and just
Exactly.
awareness. So I want to thank you
Thank you.
again for joining me,
It was
Denise.
it was fun,
Yeah, it's
entertaining.
been a real pleasure. I can't wait to meet you on the
I
dance
know.
floor.
Same here. I look forward to it.
To all of you listening, if Denise's story inspires you as much as it inspires me, do me a favor and share it with a friend. Drop a comment, tap 5 stars, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media so you never miss a chance to tune in. This is the Dancing Housewife signing off, and as always, happy dancing!
Bye.
That's all, folks.